Hello, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. Hopefully you can see my screen here we're getting ready for using game theory for cultural change with Janna Loeffler. And I'm very excited about this. I'm excited to have Janna on today. You guys know me. My name is Paul Merrill. I'm from Beaufort Fairmont Test Automation Services. And we love test automation. That's what we do. We do that through consulting, through training, and through helping folks with staffing and recruiting. We're based in Cary, North Carolina. We've been at this for a very long time. And hey, you guys know me by now. So make sure to check out our webinars on the webinar page, beaufortfairmont.com/webinars. We've got all the ones from the last 4 years there with lots of great people who have guested for us, who have been on this webinar. So hopefully everybody got a little bit of time outside and some vitamin D this past week. We've all been set free in most states, which is just a wonderful feeling, I'm sure, for most of us. Looking forward to today. Let's get started. Hopefully you can see my screen. A couple points of order here. One is you should have the ability to write questions into either the web app or the native app. Hopefully you can see those. Let me know if you have any questions. If you can see my screen, I would love some feedback about that in the questions section or in the chat section. Hopefully you can see the full screen there and we're good to go. Looking forward to this. Janna was on a couple weeks ago. She did a wonderful job talking about CI and CD, and today she's going to talk about game theory and using it for cultural change. So a couple things as we get started. You all know I have a B list. The B list, it's a play on the A list. But if you made this, it's because you did something kind for me or for the company, and I appreciate your work on that. And I'm looking frantically for Janna's name up here, and I don't see it, but Janna will be added post-webinar-ish after this, I guess. So anyway, so glad you guys are all here, and congratulations if you made the B list. That's just something you did to help me or help the company in the last little while. A couple jobs we have coming up that are open. One is an automation architect consultant, and this is somebody who really knows their ins and outs for test automation, somebody who wants to devote about 4 weeks to a project full-time, working remotely with this group. They want the ins and outs and recommendations on UI testing, on end-to-end testing, on back-end testing, on API testing, on services, all of that. They want to know how to start, how to move forward from where they are, implementing processes and procedures. If you're that person, you're based in the United States, you can work remotely, you are not sponsored or don't need sponsorship, give me a yell. Reach out to me, paul@beaufortfairmont.com. Another one that I have coming up is a robot framework coach, and this is for about 6 to 9 weeks. It's a short-term deal, and it's helping out this really wonderful company client that we have, and they have done a wonderful job with what they've done so far. I'll be doing some training with them in robot framework. It's one of the things that I do, and one of the courses that I like the most in teaching. And then afterwards, we need someone to support those people who have been through training. So if you think that you're the right fit for this role, the 50% travel is wrong. It's all remote. There's no travel on this one at this point. It'll be all remote. But it's about 3 months, and reach out to me on that. I'd love to hear from you. So look, you guys know we do training, consulting, and I've called it dedicated experts for a long time. I'm going to start calling that recruiting and staffing because that's what we've done. We've done that for about 4 years. We've done a really good job at it. We tend to place the right people in the right roles at the right time, and our customers love us for it. So we're going to put more energy into it because our clients are asking for more of it. So if you are hiring and you've got positions that are open and you need help finding the right people, give me a yell. Once again, paul@beaufortfairmont.com. Awesome. So we're going to get started here with Janna. Once again, if there are any problems or comments or anything, put them into the chat or into the questions box. I'd love to see that works. If you guys have a second to type something in there, I can make sure that we're working right here. But I'm looking forward to this today. Janna probably doesn't need an introduction from most of you. I see a test now. Thank you, Randall. I appreciate that. It looks like the questions do work. Perfect. It does work, Tom. Thank you. I can always trust Tom. I know I can trust him. And thank you, Randall. So Janna probably needs no introduction from some of you because you saw her a couple months ago on here talking about CI, CD, and she did a wonderful job talking about that. We still want her to come back and maybe do some work talking about the pipelines that she's built in the past and about GitLab and how it works with those. She's a frequent speaker out on the speaking circuit. She worked at Disney and did a wonderful job with them. I loved hearing her stories from Disney and all the work there. She currently works with Ultimate Software. And Janna, I'm going to let you do the rest of your introduction. I'm so happy that you're here today as I take you off of mute. Oops, I'm pressing the wrong button. Take you off of mute. It looks like you had unmuted yourself. Welcome, Janna.
Hello, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna I think I need to be presenter to show my slide.
I'm getting there. I'm out of practice. We missed last month, guys. And so I'm out of practice. It's been a month and a half since then.
Fabulous.
Let's see how this goes.
Present. How does that look? Can everybody?
I'm trying to find it. Sometimes my windows get mixed up here. Like I said, there it goes. Perfect. All right, awesome. Thank you, Janna, and good luck.
There we go. Hello, everybody. So as Paul so graciously said, I am Janna Loeffler, and I'm so happy to be here today to talk to you about using game theory to drive cultural change and one-up quality. So I've worked in a variety of industries over the years. I have 15 years of experience with software testing. I've worked in regulated industries, having worked for medical device companies. I've worked with robotics and ride control systems at the Walt Disney Company. I've tested everything from web pages to mobile apps to embedded systems to IoT devices. And in all the companies that I've worked for, I've really seen three common themes emerge. And those themes are really a desire to make a cultural change to either your team or your organization because you want to improve quality. All the testers that I've worked with always seem to have a passion for quality and testing, which is fabulous. It's really what you want to look for when you hire somebody as a software tester. I also run across a lot of times that leadership wants more visibility into your teams. Testing quality metrics are a huge thing, dashboards, pictures, all of that stuff. They want to have an idea of how the company is doing with their testing. And then it doesn't matter if you are a leader, if you are a tester, an individual contributor, a developer, everybody seems to want to have fun at work. So I'm going to show you how understanding game theory and some systems thinking can help you drive that cultural change within your team or organization and have fun while doing this. Because as we all know, cultural change is hard. It's really hard. Now, so we're all on the same page. I'm looking at culture as the customs, arts, social institutions of a particular people or social group. Cultural change is hard for many different reasons, but usually I find that it's a combination of three things that makes changing a culture difficult. First of all, culture is part of our identity. Many of us fear change because it may threaten that identity. Let's look at the software testing industry alone. Many people are still very threatened by automation and AI. Many times this is because they fear that if a machine starts to do what they can do, what does it mean for them as a tester? For some people, that really challenges their identity. Cultural changes at an organizational level can be difficult as well, because sometimes those organizations use culture as a control. Now, having worked in the medical device industry, I've had to be very conscious of FDA regulations. One of the companies I worked for, I was required to do a 25-page test strategy. It was literally a Word template document that was handed to me by a manager of quality assurance. And what I noticed was people started to get really defensive when I asked why the test strategy document had to be a 25-page document, or specifically this 25-page template. And the interesting thing is I was expecting somebody to point out a specific FDA regulation or some sort of official document that outlined that you needed to follow this template at all times. But the answer that I was receiving was, this document passed FDA audit last time, so therefore it's required. There was that comfort in knowing that this document made it through the FDA audit once, and therefore it could be used to control any future FDA audit. And this can be a really difficult mindset to change. It's comforting, it's who we are, and it's control. I hit all three. So how do we change culture and have fun doing it? Well, games. Games are an amazing tool when it comes to understanding how people and teams think. They can really promote collaboration and give insight into why initiatives and transformations may not have worked in the past. The other fun thing about games is that it really allows people to step outside of their comfort zone. I mean, it's just a game, right? It allows people to explore their imaginations and childlike wonder because it's not quite reality. Imagine now what you can really learn from watching people play a game. Imagine how you can demonstrate to someone that something is achievable because they did it in a game setting. I mean, if you did it in a game, why can't you do it in everyday life? Maybe, just maybe, that is possible. All of a sudden, all sorts of possibilities are unlocked. So in order to understand all this better, let's dive into some game theory. Pareto, inefficient, Nash equilibrium. I know those words just roll right off your tongue, and it's the first thing that you think about. And really what that gets to is that it's possible to make an individual better off without making any individual worse off, but no one will change their strategy. So two common and readily studied game theories that give us insight into human behavior and systems thinking are the Nash equilibrium and Pareto efficiency. This was first brought to my attention in a podcast with Andrew Clay Schaefer on the concept of Pareto inefficient Nash equilibrium. He talks about Pareto inefficient Nash equilibrium in regards to DevOps transformation. And this is really what made things click for me as to why I've seen previous initiatives and transformations fail. This is usually what I see in teams, that everybody knows they could be doing something better that would help the team, but no one is willing to take that first step until someone changes the game. So let's watch a short movie clip that helps demonstrate some of these concepts.
Incoming, gentlemen. Deep breaths. Nash, you might want to stop shuffling your papers for 5 seconds.
I'll not buy you gentlemen beer.
Oh, we're not here for beer, my friend.
Oh. Anyone else feels she's been moving in slow motion?
Will she want a large wedding, you think?
Should you say swords, gentlemen? Pistols at dawn?
Have you remembered nothing? Recall the lessons of Adam Smith, father of modern economics.
In competition, individual ambition serves the common good.
Exactly.
Every man for himself, gentlemen. And those who strike out are stuck with their friends.
I'm not going to strike out.
You can lead a blonde to water, but you can't make her drink.
I don't think he said
All
that.
right, nobody move. She's looking over now. Right, she's looking at Nash.
Oh, God. All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth. Remember the last time?
Oh, yeah, that was the history books.
Adam Smith needs revision.
What are you talking about?
We all go for the blonde. We block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for our friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. What if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way. And we don't insult the other girls. It's the only way we win. It's the only way we all get laid. Adam Smith said, the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said, right? Incomplete. Incomplete. Okay. Because the best result would come from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself and the group.
This is some way for you to get the blonde on your own. You can go to hell.
Governing dynamics, gentlemen. Governing dynamics. Adam Smith.
Who's wrong?
So in this clip, we see that the overall objective for each individual doesn't change. They all want to get dates. They each had the individual strategy of going for the blonde. However, in order for everyone to be successful, they all had to change their individual strategies for the greater good of the team. So let's break this down a little bit more. Basically, the Nash equilibrium states that no one person has anything to gain by changing their strategy alone. In this clip, what we saw, the best way to get from what everybody wanted, a date, was to simultaneously change their individual strategies for the greater good of the team. They realized that even if one person went for that same girl, the blonde, someone or all of them would be worse off. None of them would get a date. So let's also look at this in regards to team dynamic. Let's say your manager tells you that you have 2 new people joining your team. Now, the Pareto efficient way of dividing up those resources is to have one be a tester and one being a developer, because Pareto inefficiency is an allocation of resources, which is impossible to make any one individual better off without making at least one individual worse off. So one of each. However, your manager decides to make them both developers and not change any deadlines. It makes the development better off, being able to produce more code faster. However, it makes the testing team worse off because now they have more to test. So that would be Pareto inefficient. One thing that is important to note with Pareto efficiency is that while it's always most efficient, it's not necessarily the best or most fair. So let's look at this on how, let's take an example on how an allocation may be very unfair and very unequal while still being Pareto efficient. An example of this is, say you have 3 friends, so you and 2 other friends, and you have a pie. Now, you cut the pie into 3 pieces, right? Because then that fully allocates all resources and everybody gets a pie. That's actually Pareto optimal because it's efficient and it's optimal. However, you could cut that pie in 2 slices and give 2 people pieces of the pie and leave the 3rd person out. This is actually Pareto efficient as well, because as much as we all love pie, you don't need pie. You're not any worse off if you don't have pie. So all the resources have been allocated and nobody is worse off. So where does this bring us? This brings us to why many initiatives and transformations fail. They fail to simultaneously change the behavior of the people involved. Usually what I see are 1 or 2 advocates or people passionate about changing things. Sometimes you'll see things like ivory towers or house on a hill kind of analogies, where there's a group that's sitting on top trying to dictate things to other people. But they usually either lack the influence or authority to simultaneously change people's behavior. As testers, many of us call ourselves quality advocates, but we really don't have the authority over scope, budget, and resources. So we need to influence people to get the cultural change that we desire. This is where we need to use knowledge of game theory to change the game, to change the culture. So let's bring this back to games. What is a game? I'm sure a lot of us have played board games or video games, but it's really kind of any activity or business regarded to as a game is kind of what I'm referring to. And there's always different components to a game. There's usually a goal that you have to get to. There's some rules. You may have some challenges along the way, but a big part of the game I'm going to talk about is interactivity. Usually in a game, you need players, and then it usually helps to have a moderator as well, especially if it's a new game. So when I started thinking about a quality game, I decided I needed to look at some rules and some goals. So doing some research, I looked into Google's test certification program. And test certified was comprised originally of 3 levels. They eventually bumped it up to 5, which were comprised of smaller tasks. Some of the tasks could be completed very rapidly, while others took more time and commitment. As one expected, the levels took progressively more time and more effort from one to the next. So everybody started out at the lowest one, had some missions, some obstacles, and then they had to go forth to level up. Similarly, I looked at TMMI, which is a nonprofit organization which supports organizations around the world to improve their software and systems testing and achieve higher and sustainable levels of product quality for systems that they are developing and maintaining. It's also a 5-level system. So I'm starting to think that maybe there's something here with 5 levels. But I kind of looked at some of the different criteria for these 2 different organizations to see if I could apply them to my own particular situation, or if I could, adapt them to work for me for rules to help one-up quality at my company. Then I also had to look at moderators or game masters. And this is where testers can really drive cultural change to one-up quality. Some of you may have heard of the term mod as it relates to game. So the term mod is derived from the act of modifying a game. To mod a game is to create custom levels, objects, characters, or even a unique standalone game from an existing game. Many games come with an editor that allows for modding, or some sort of system. So a person who mods a game is called a modder. And testers need to they need to mod their roles. They need to work within the existing game engine, the existing culture and role, but modify that to be a game master. So what is a game master? A game master is a person who acts like an organizer, officiant regarding the rules, arbitrators, moderators for multiplayer games. Game masters need to be coaches, helping everyone power up their levels and skills. So that's where testers really need to come in as experts. Experts in quality, experts in quality, they really need to own being a game master and really providing those expertise when it comes to all things testing and quality. So, okay, I know who my players are. It's either going to be my team or my organization. I have some idea about game theory and how games now can, simultaneously change everybody's behavior. I've got some basic rules that I could look at, some criteria from Google and TMMI, and I have a game master myself, maybe. Awesome, I'm good to go, right? It's a trap. There's so much more to this than just checking off all the check boxes. So let's talk a little bit about some pitfalls that you're going to want to avoid. So the big one is to be a game master. And one of the big things that people run into is they have what are known as mercenaries and not masters. And for example, Google had some test mercenaries, and they were really kind of the game masters to their test certified game. However, it was ultimately not as successful as they would have hoped it to be, mostly because 2 mercenaries were embedded onto a team to teach and to help teams level up in their test certification. They would swoop in, learn a little bit about the team, train the team, and then leave. And what they found was many teams would go back to their old ways after the mercenaries left. To better understand this, we have to get a better understanding of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So along these lines, as many initiatives fail because they simply offer extrinsic motivation in the form of swag, bonuses, special treatment, or sometimes punishment. So in this regard, if you have mercenaries or people that just kind of throw themselves into a situation as the experts without understanding what the team really needs, just telling the team how they you need to complete these challenges and I will show you and train you on how to complete these challenges. But how do they even know those challenges matter to the team? Extrinsic motivation like this has been shown that it drives rapid, short-lived change. That once the reward is received or the punishment is avoided, people revert back to their former state. Interestingly enough, many teams revert back to even worse than where they were when they started. So they put all this effort into changing, get burnt out, and then are even worse than they were when they began. Whereas if you look at intrinsic motivation, that tends to bring out long-term change. So intrinsic motivation is doing something because it's personally rewarding to you. And when people are passionate about a cause, when they truly have bought into a cause, they're more likely to take that to heart and permanently change. However, only using intrinsic motivation can lead to things never really getting off the ground because no one is pushed to make a change. So this has to be done together. You have to learn what's important to people. You can't just set down rules and expect people to follow those rules. And the worst thing you can do is use the game to assess people. And that's because it needs to be a competition in the true sense of the word competition and not a comparison. To understand a little bit better, I have another short video clip.
The word compete, here's where it comes from. Competire, and it means to strive together, to look at competition as a partnership. Now I'm going to ask you a question. How would you answer this? When would you run faster? By yourself or with someone else? With someone else, right? I talked to a lot of athletes and they pick this one. Why? Competition, many different reasons, right? But what does this show us? That we need other people to push us to a level that we could not get to on our own, right? So I want to show you an example of another philosopher, little Kanye West action, okay? Now, what's interesting is Kanye is oftentimes compared to Drake, so he's going to talk about how he views Drake, but also how he views competition.
I look at Drake as like an amazing sparring partner.
Way up, I feel blessed.
Someone's like, come on, man, get back up. Ah, get back up. What's up? What's up, bro? What you doing? Because, you sit there. I was sitting there getting fat, sitting back, just knocked everybody out. And then this guy hits the gym. He's just like running around like, bah, 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 14 hits. Same as Paul McCartney. Bah, I'm like, well, okay, let me go to the studio then. Let's see what's happening. Let me get these lyrics up. Let me see what's happening. So that's where you're at right now. That's where you're getting these records from. Yeah.
Is it still one of the greatest values in the hip hop is the competition?
I think it's an important part of it. Yeah. I think it's an important part in everything. I think in fashion, architecture, anything that has to be a competition. You know, I think healthy competition is better than rivalry. I think rivalry becomes a cancer, as it becomes like termites in your house. I think healthy competition is something where you appreciate how hard this person goes. You know, like I think that Michael needed Prince. Everybody needs somebody to kick their ass a little bit.
So how do we avoid these traps? Well, a good way to avoid this is to select a team member to be your game master. And that's somebody who has an understanding of how the team works. Somebody already has a good rapport with the team, can be really kind of that advocate for the team as you talk through your different criteria and rules for your game. I like to try and create a game league where game masters meet and discuss the lessons learned. So you may have a testing guild or a testing community of interest or testing tribe at your company. If you do, lean on that. Otherwise, I also say lean on your external resources. If you know of other industry experts, talk to them. Talk about sharing successes and failures to build each other up, and really use those game masters to help create the rules for the game. An important part of change management is to get buy-in. Your game will go a lot better if you're leveraging the intrinsic motivation of the team and you make it relatable to the values of the team. So my recommendation is to find out what those intrinsic motivations are and then find ways to automate things. I know metrics can be gamed and data can be gamed, but use data to show how a team is leveling up. In the absence of clean automated metrics or tools, use your game master. Have the game master be responsible for reporting on the team's progress. Yes, people could cheat, but trust goes a long way in cultural change. We have to trust each other, much like the clip we watched about the Nash equilibrium. We're all going to cooperate. We all have to cooperate to have the most optimal outcome. And then use both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation to drive people to change something that they are passionate about. Now, when it comes to creating rules and finding out, digging into some of those intrinsic motivations, I like to ask 5 basic questions. I like to ask how you're doing what you're doing. I want to walk a mile in your shoes. I want to know why you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes I may have all the best insight in the world, but if I don't understand your challenges or what you're going through, I can't set appropriate goals and levels for you, challenges for you. I like to know what does quality mean to you, and what are some metrics that you use. This kind of guides me into what your opinions are and what your views are, because quality really means something different to every person at different levels. Am I doing this at a team level? I'm going to figure out what does quality mean to that team. If I'm doing it at an executive level, if I'm catering to that, I want to find out from them. Now, when I talk to teams, I usually ask, what are 3 things you think would make your life easier? And I usually ask 3 things. I used to start out asking that, what is the number 1 thing that if I could change would make your life easier? But what I commonly got back was either more time or more people. Those are usually 2 things I just don't have control over. So if I ask, what are your 3 things? I usually end up with more time, more people, and then something else that I can actually work on. It's usually either a tool or a different strategy or a different process. That's where the real ideas come out, and that's what can trigger your rules and criteria. So then I have a better understanding of what your intrinsic motivation is. And then I like to pair that with a little extrinsic motivation. I usually do it in the form of swag because everybody loves swag and swag is fun and you can have a whole lot of fun with it. So I want to give you an example of some quality levels. So these are quality levels that I've put together for different companies. And you may see a theme here along the lines of one-upping quality. It's kind of got a video game feel, thus my kind of Minecrafty background as well in my video. So I love this because A, it's fun. A lot of people enjoy video games. They have some fun taglines to it. I mean, come on, level 1, you're Frogger, you're just trying to survive, all the way up to League of Legends, where you are just working together as a team of quality legends. It's got some really kind of great ties into quality, but you have to figure out what works for you and what works for your company. And you'll notice here that I've got 4 little icons off to the side of each level. And that's one way that I will play my quality game. I like it that there are 4 quality components that make up each quality level. I usually do testing, performance, development practices, and user experience. I like to do it this way because a lot of times companies will get focused on testing equals quality. And as we know, quality is much greater than just testing. So in order to really hit that home, I put these 4 quality components in there, and then I give each quality component 3 to 5 quality missions. So when you complete your quality missions for that component, so I have 3 to 5 quality missions for testing, and then I'll get my green frog badge. Once I get all badges, all 4 badges, then I can level up. So this way, teams are having to work at quality from a holistic level. So they can't, even though they may be at a level 5 testing, if they're only at a level 1 when it comes to development practices, well, then maybe they need to focus on development practices and ramp those up so they can be ramping up quality holistically. The nice thing about this is it's a nice leaderboard. You can have a leaderboard going with this, which provides visibility into where your team is at with quality. So if you see teams getting their testing frog right away and then their performance frog right away, maybe their user experience frog, but they're struggling with those development practices, that's a good indicator that maybe you need some help. Maybe you need some guidance around there. Maybe the game master needs to come in and help the team by acting like a consultant on things that they can do. The important thing about this is to iterate them. It is okay to break it up into smaller chunks or have different game levels. You may just start out with the green column with just the testing trials. Call it Call of Development, Smash Bug. It's a game, so the point is to have fun with it. Here's an example of how you can put together some of your game rules. So this is a Google sheet that everybody could contribute to. And when I say everyone, I'm thinking all your game masters, or if you have that testing tribe, things like that, everybody in the tribe contribute to, could view, provide feedback on. The overall levels are here for reference, and you can see how the levels are broken into different components of quality. And then you can see how it's broken down even further into different testing missions. So in this case, each badge has 3 missions. It could be 1 mission, it could be 5 missions. I do like to try and limit the number of missions for each badge to make it easy for teams to earn badges and to stay in the game. If you make it too difficult, which is actually why Google started out with a 3-tier program and ended up with a 5, they found out it was too hard for teams to level up and teams were disengaging. So you need to make it easy enough for teams to earn badges and stay in the game. I also like to make level 1 pretty achievable. That way everybody gets into the game right away. They can step off, they can start out, everything like that. And depending on how you want to run your game, you can put time limits on how long teams have to complete missions to level up. Otherwise, you can have it set up so that teams are constantly trying to achieve the highest level possible. One thing we've done in the past, or I've done in the past, is I left it open for teams to continue to rise, and level 5 was pretty difficult. Not completely unobtainable. I think I only had one team ever make it to level 5, but what I found out is we had a recruiting cohort program. So all the new people would come in, and every time a team leveled up or finished one of their badges, they got a piece of swag. And so as a new person coming onto the team, you automatically get that swag. Well, here they are in orientation, and one person gets a frog and the other person gets a frog and a rubber ducky. I found sporting frogs and I found rubber duckies. It was absolutely adorable. And the new team member next to them said, well, how did you get that rubber ducky? I want that rubber ducky too. And then when they were embedded in their team, they really ignited and had a passion for moving things forward, bringing in a new perspective. So it's a way to kind of keep things going, keep things fresh. And it was actually a social engineering experiment that I didn't even realize. But it's your game. You know your situation better than anyone else. So make it your own and do what makes sense for your situation. The other thing I want to point out is I generally don't use tool adoption in my games. You'll see my exception here. This is a sample of some quality levels that I put forth. Now, one of them is integrating with SonarQube because we use SonarQube for code coverage. That's a pretty well established across all teams for the company that I was working with at the time. So it made sense to integrate it into the quality levels because all the teams were using it anyway. It wasn't a new adoption. But I don't want teams to feel like they have to use a specific tool just to win the game. I want them to do the right thing for them. And if that means using a different tool, then go for it. However, you still have to be able to use that tool to show that you've completed a mission. I do like to have a leaderboard, so your tool has to be able to integrate with the leaderboard. That being said, I have used games to drive tool adoptions. I tell teams they don't have to use my recommended tool, but my recommended tool already comes integrated into the mission. So I make it easier to level up using the tool to incentivize people to change, make the right thing easy. But I still allow them their autonomy if they so desire. It just may take them a little longer to level up, or maybe they have some extra work to do. Remember, Pareto efficiency doesn't have to be equal. They don't want a yummy piece of pie. They don't need to eat the pie. So, starting to wrap this up, I love this quote because I think it really drives home the mission and the statement behind all of this is, provided a skilled team of facilitators handles the game, few other approaches to teaching can match the immersive qualities of playing games. So as long as you have an expert tester, a skilled facilitator, good game masters, a clear goal, clear rules, and you keep everything with the idea of having fun in mind, there are a few other approaches that can really teach people, that can really drive cultural change as much as playing games do. One of the important things that I like to put out in this presentation is a huge thank you. I got a lot of this information off of a lot of smart people. There's also, for further learning on this and to really see this in action, in the further learning section here, there's a video on YouTube called Wicked Games, and you can see how a company went in and actually used games to change an entire culture to save a forest and some natural resources. Games are powerful. So as long as you understand the game theory behind them, put the effort into it, and get some good buy-in, there's nothing that can stop you from achieving better quality and one-upping your quality. I'm going to start opening it up to questions, but I wanted to make sure you had my contact information. So if you have any questions, anything like that, that is my email, that is my Twitter handle. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Hey, Janna, that was awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that. And I know sometimes it takes people a few minutes to type questions in. So maybe as they're doing that, we can talk a little bit. And there is one question here that I think could be really, really helpful. This was great though. So gaming is a really neat idea to go with. And I think that there's a lot to learn there as well with gaming. But it's definitely a lot of fun. The teams that I find that are the best to work with and that make the most difference are the ones that are having fun, just like you said. There was a question here by Heather who asked if you had any suggestions about teams who are going through changes while we have all shifted to working from home. So everyone has done this in the last couple months. She says, we're trying to shift to a more test-driven development model, but we're struggling with doing things the old way individually. And I'll just throw in a note there. I have a really great TDD class. So I did it twice in the last month, and it's wonderful. And it really is one part of a very good process for transferring teams over. But I'll let you answer the question about working from home and doing this change at the same time.
Yeah, and that's where I think your leaderboards really come into play, because if you have visibility, especially external visibility, then it brings everybody together and really starts to drive that change, because you're competing together. Even though you're alone at your house, you've got that leaderboard, you've got the common goals, the common mission that everybody can jump in and play in. I think one of the interesting phenomenons to a lot of this is we look at companies like Jackbox Games, which is a virtual gaming system that has exploded because people can play that individually, but together. You look at even Zoom and how that's a very individual application, but it brings it together. So I think the big part of this is having regular check-ins, and then also having visibility into what you're doing and having some way to gauge and measure yourself to keep up that competition. And that's where, Kanya kind of said, I need somebody to kick my butt a little bit. So that's where you need to hold each other accountable and make sure that those goals and your progress is clearly visible.
Wonderful. So Janna, a couple people have asked about your spreadsheet and about your slides and things like that. Are you open to sharing some of those things?
Yeah, I will. You can either email me directly, or I can send you the slide deck call, and you can send that out too. I'm happy to share this with whomever would like it.
That's perfect. So this is her email address here, Janna, and I always get it wrong. Is it Loeffler or Loeffler? I'm so sorry. Loeffler. Okay, I feel like I always get it wrong. Janna Loeffler. It's a beautiful name. I just wish I said it right every time. So that's great. So you'll be able to get that from her. Her Gmail address is right there on the screen, or through Twitter. Several other here. So this is one that I really like. So Randall asks, what about the more stodgy teams? Do you find eventually leaderboards drive people to succeed?
I do, and it's really that it's social engineering at its finest. Because if you have, what I found even with stodgy teams is when another team gets into it, as long as you have at least one other team getting into it, everything that you're doing is doing to improve process and to improve quality. And so now all of a sudden you have an internal champion. You're saying somebody who's playing this game and improving their quality, and you can show that through different metrics that you even normally track. It may be the number of internally found defects goes up while your customer found defects goes down, showing that you're finding defects faster. That may not be one of the levels, but that may you know, you want to still track some of those side overarching quality metrics to show that what you're doing, the work is worth it. And once that starts to show through, even some of the stodgier teams have to kind of swallow their pride a little bit, or take a deep breath and say, wow, that team is rocking it. That team is getting a lot of attention. They're getting a lot of just kind of fun things. They're having a lot of fun. I want to have fun too. I want to do good things too. And that's where, you know, you don't assess, but you compete together. So a lot of times what I will do is I will have, you know, a team that's being really successful. Maybe somebody from that team will rotate into a team that is just kind of decided to get in the game and wants to ramp up faster. You know, break down some of those silos and start some of those collaborations. Bring it back to, if you have a community or a tribe, sharing those successes so people can learn how to do it as well and do it for themselves.
That's great. Yeah, you know, I realized a long time ago that fun was much more attractive than other things, right? So one of the things that I try to do with workshops, I found out workshops at conferences, was if I could do something fun, people showed up, they enjoyed it, they wanted to do it. And then I would tease those fun things while we were doing the learning so that they felt like they were having fun the whole time.
Yeah, and what I've learned is then that word spreads too. So the next time you give a tutorial or any, you know, workshop, people are like, I want to take that because I heard from so-and-so that it was so much fun.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Charles asks about individual efforts and how they would be measured. Are they measured the same as the team? Are they measured differently than a team? Do you do only the team?
I usually only do team. And that's because I want it to be a team activity. But what I have found is that individuals also improve because you have to level up your individuals to level up the team. And that's where game masters really come into play as coaches. And what I've seen is that much like I know in some of the Scrum-based worlds, things like that, you put work in progress limits that with teams, they start realizing that, you know, we need to do this as a team, different aspects need to be built up. So let's help each other out. Let's ramp up your skills. Let's figure this out. Let's ask another team for help. I'd like to have, you know, maybe your company has a center of excellence or a quality program, things like that, that you can leverage and bring in and help. It just, the amount of social interaction that this causes really kind of helps people, the teams level up, but people level up as well.
Wonderful. So Chris mentions, and I wish I were able to answer this question because it's a great question, but Chris asks, but it's your show, so I'm not going to do that. How do you prevent people from gaming the games?
So that is always a concern, and I've actually found I don't have to do that often, because especially when the levels get progressively more and more difficult, people start learning, and people are their own kind of good lie detectors, and you have that pressure from other teams. At the end of the day, that's why I say you still have to track those overarching metrics, internal versus kind of external defects or covered, whatever metrics you decide to handle, because the data won't lie. And that's why if you use data driven as much as possible, and you use a variety set of metrics, you can find out pretty fast whether or not people are gaming the system. But Paul, please, you know, if you have insights on this too, I love to hear.
No, this is yours. I think it's a cool question, though, and a very insightful question, very helpful to ask, and I like the way you approach that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's where I say it really has to. You have to build this up on trust. And what I have found is people tend not to gamify it too much, because they realize that they work with a whole bunch of experts, that other people have visibility into what they're doing and can call them out very easily. So it's almost fear that keeps them from gamifying it.
Yeah, and most people, like you said, most people want to be honest. They want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're running out of time here. Maybe one last question, and then we'll move on. And I want to say thank you so much for your time here with this. Someone asked, who do you typically have manage this? So do you typically have a Scrum Master facilitate or lead this initiative?
It really kind of depends on your situation. I usually like to have a test lead run this, but it all depends on if every team has a test lead. I've left it up to the teams to determine who runs it for their, like, who's the game master for their own team, and then I have all those game masters come. It's like you choose a scrum master, and then you have a scrum of scrums. I have the team choose who their game master is going to be, because, like I said, if that game master already has the respect and rapport of the team, it makes it so much easier for the teams to get involved and to really understand the intrinsic values of the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Janna. I really appreciate your time and being a part of this. It's always nice to have you come on board. I'm still looking forward to the chance to do the CI/CD continuation if you ever want to do that. I know that things are busy for so many folks right now, and creating new content is just really difficult. But if you are interested, we would love to have you back for that.
Yeah, I owe you the continuation of that and a Docker tutorial. So.
You don't owe anything, but if you want to do it, we would love to have it. So thank you so much. Well, this is awesome. I hope everyone has enjoyed this and gotten a lot out of it. I certainly have. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, we're going to be doing more staffing and recruiting. So if you have open positions, send them my way. You've got my email right here, paul@beaufortfairmont.com. You can always contact me through Twitter @dpaulmerrill, or through the company's Twitter handle as well. We're always open through the website as well if you have those roles there. And if you're looking for new work, you can send us your resume, tell us what you're interested in, and we'll keep you in mind for the next open roles that we have coming in. We have wonderful clients, and we're so happy and blessed to be able to work with them. We want to keep them satisfied, and so many people need jobs right now. This is a good way to connect folks. So we're excited to be able to do that. Once again, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which will be in mid-June. We were just looking at dates today. I think we're looking at the second Tuesday or third Tuesday in June. I think it's the 16th. And I will be sending out information about that. And I'm going to be talking about PACT. So this is a contract testing tool. So if you've ever looked into contract-driven testing, it actually helps focus on consumer-driven contract testing. This is a little bit different than API testing. But we can do it at the API level. Really cool tool called PACT, and I'm going to be going through a short workshop on that. You guys are welcome to join me. So looking forward to doing that one. And everybody, please stay safe, stay positive, get out there and get some vitamin D. And thank you so much for being here, and we will see you soon. Thanks again, Janna. Have a good day.